Welcome back. It's All Truth, Low Sodium. It's the Post Podium Podcast. I am your co-host, Aramis.
And your other co-host, Keyshawn.
All right, let's get to it, man. We're back for another episode. I really enjoyed last week, man. Last week was a blast. We finally got that up on YouTube. The other ones are you can find them on Spotify or wherever else you get your audio podcasts. But let's just dive in, man. We're gonna try to make it a little bit shorter this time. We realize 2 hours. We
lost our heads.
Ourselves.
Yeah, we lost our heads.
We indulged ourselves, but that's what happens when you're having a good time.
Exactly.
So, but let's get into it. So, Aitman. We signed Marcell Aitman.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny about Marcell Aitman? I actually liked him in the draft when he came out. Josh Allen's draft.
Oh, Josh! Wow.
Yeah, he played with Mason Rudolph. He played with James Washington. I'm sorry. So he was exciting.
Yeah, that was Oklahoma
exciting.
State, right?
Oklahoma State. Yeah, a high flying offense where you're looking at. There were a couple blowouts that season too, where it just wasn't. There was no contest, and Aitman was a major contributor. Was their number 2 receiver or something? Or? He was number 2. Yeah.
Okay.
He really reminded me of Gabe Davis. Now. In the downfield, not blazing speed. I think he ran about a 4.2 at the combine.
That's pretty fast.
Not just fast, but for 6'4", it works. But for your downfield threat, you want a little faster, but he made it work. He's like one of those stat kind of guys that makes it work.
Okay, so just more long stride.
Right.
So he's not your Randy Moss.
Right. No, he's he's not gonna be Randy Moss. But and don't make me get you thinking that he's going to be a Gabe Davis replacement either. He's just going to be along that same kind of ilk.
That's what it seems like. Between him and Shorter.
He has to make the team first. That's big too. Justin Shorter is not going to just let him have his jersey without a fight.
You better not.
But no, you're looking at a guy who lived between that 10 to 20 range, the 10 to 20 yard range where we kind of were lacking over the middle. So hopefully they brought him in as a way to kind of bolster the production over the middle,
right?
Where we were sorely lacking last year. So you're looking at a 28-year-old wide receiver. He was the number 2 overall selection in XFL draft in 2023. So, I mean, with that being said, welcome to the team, Marcell. And do you have anybody else?
Yeah. They also picked up Brandon Shell.
Squaddy pickup.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this: the Bills have always kind of had that veteran right tackle, that guy that kind of sits behind Spencer Brown, and if he gets hurt or they compete with each other or something like that, it's almost as if, because they've said that we trust Spencer Brown, we like him as a player, and he had back injuries and whatever last year, so they're trying to say the right things in terms of giving him an opportunity to really solidify himself in that spot. But you're also bringing in veterans who aren't terrible, but they're serviceable veterans that can come in and play that position and maybe give Spencer Brown a run for his money.
Yeah, he brought him in as an insurance policy in case Spencer Brown doesn't improve from last year. But if you look at what he offers, it's not a lot in the way of pass blocking. I will let you guys know that now. He's not going to give you what you're looking for as a premier pass blocking stalwart on the right side. Mm-hmm. But what you're looking at with him is maybe bolstering a little bit of the run blocking, which Spencer Brown does have all the necessary tools to succeed. You're looking at his RAS score was probably one of the best in the draft when Spencer Brown came out 2 years ago.
Interesting.
Even at a 6'8", 310-pound right tackle. So the sky's the limit is for Spencer Brown. So that is the guy I'm hoping is going to see us for the foreseeable future on the right tackle spot.
So you like
I love Spencer Brown. Yeah, I just think he needs to get with Aaron Comer and have an injury-free offseason. That's it. That's basically where it is. He has to have an injury-free offseason. He had the back last year. He played 7-on-7 the year COVID came out.
Yeah.
So he really is a tight end. That's really what he is.
Okay.
He's kind of like what's the guy from Seattle, the basketball player. Was it Brandon Gant?
Jimmy Graham?
Nah.
Oh.
The tackle they had, the left tackle. It'll come to me later, but.
The one they had last year, wasn't it George?
No, he was a couple years ago. He did pretty well
Oh, it was like a street free agent they picked up or something like that. I think
yeah.
I know you're talking about. I don't remember.
Yeah,
his name.
he was
I
a
don't remember his
project,
name.
but he worked out because he's a basketball player. And what the point I'm getting at is when you have that kind of athleticism and that size and that reach, the sky is the limit for what you can do, especially with Aaron Cromer. Come on. You give him a chance to work with Aaron Cromer, one of the premier offensive line coaches in the league. Everything looks good.
If that's the case, and I guess I'm just looking to make sense of this, because last year I would say the offensive line is probably one of the weakest spots of the team.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. We'll get into that.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, no, I think that Brandon Shell, if he makes the team, will be a backup on the right tackle, and I don't see him playing anywhere else, as he hasn't really played any substantial snaps anywhere else on the offensive line besides the right tackle spot for his career.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, new signings for the Bills. Welcome to the team. Hopefully y'all got a jersey waiting for y'all somewhere, and we look forward to seeing what they do here.
And I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that the Brandon Shell signing was a precursor to the cut of Brandon Bryant. So the defensive tackle is no longer here.
Yeah, I think they let a camp wide receiver go when they signed Aitman too. Yep. Okay, I have to admit, I do like the idea of having a guy that size with that kind of speed, even if he's 4.3 now or something like that. But that size of 4.3 speed, and this kind of brings us to what we want to get into specifically today, which is the offense. We talked about looking into Ken Dorsey and just trying to get a better feel for what we saw last year and what we can expect to see this year. And I think all of this kind of helps us to connect how the draft went with some of the changes that they made to the offensive line, what that scheme is going to look like now that they've said it's going to be more of a zone run scheme, and how that's kind of going to fit into what they do offensively. But Ken Dorsey in particular, I think, is the focus here, because we need to get a better idea of what his strengths are. Obviously, we know, and it's been reported he hasn't had any offensive coordinator experience besides here, right? But he did spend some time in Carolina, and he was a very prolific quarterback in college. He didn't do so great when he got to the NFL, but those that can't do teach, right? So tell us a little bit about Ken Dorsey and what you found.
I mean, you have to understand, Ken Dorsey was limited in college, so I really enjoyed this exercise. You know why? Because everything I thought I knew, just like with the defense last week, everything I thought I knew is probably turned on his head.
Really?
Yeah. You look at Ken Dorsey, and the first thing you think of is his transition to what kind of offense? A 12 scheme, right?
Right.
In doing research, is he really going to be a 12 scheme? I mean,
I found some stuff that I don't know.
That's So you're kind of getting So you're looking at a guy who was in Carolina. Carolina was an Earnhardt Perkins scheme. You're looking at a guy who was in Buffalo with Brian Dable, Earnhardt Perkins scheme. And the thing about the Earnhardt Perkins scheme is, if you listen to how the Bills talk, you listen to what they say, you listen to the verbiage they use when they convey what they look to do in the training camps and in the games. They talk about concepts. I think the biggest components of the Earnhardt Perkins scheme as written is the fact that it is a concept-based offense, okay? So they're like giving you the encrypted, and they're giving you these little nuggets in there, what they're saying. I don't think Dalton Kincaid is going to be a tight end. I really don't. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be what they told you. I don't think it's smoke screens. I think he's going to be your slot guy. I think he's going to be a tight end in name only. I don't think his hand is ever going to touch the ground. I think he's going to be just a middle field overseer. So with that being said, what do you have? Because your eyes lit up a little bit. So
so I think what I found is similar, but so what I did is I went back to see what type of offense Ken Dorsey played in. Obviously, coaches come from what they come from. And a lot of times they kind of, once they get into a coaching position at the pro level, they gather up what they've learned and what they've experienced, and they put that into a finalized scheme that they want to implement with the team, right? And so in at Miami, he, as a Hurricane, he played in a pro style offense, and typically that's a lot of your 12 formation. If they're running a fullback, it'll be one running back, one fullback, one tight end, or they'll do two wide receivers, one running back.
Right.
I'm sorry, they'll have two receivers with the tight end, the fullback, and the running back.
Right.
Or they can do three receivers, one fullback, one running back, no tight end. In which case, like you said, Kincaid could still be that third receiver on the inside. I also think that kind of lends to the signing of Aitman being that sub-in guy that can maybe play that inside position the same way Kincaid does, both bigger bodies, both someone that you would want being able to handle the middle of the field. Maybe Aitman's got a better feel for reading defenses and finding those open spots. So we'd have to look a little bit more into that. But
I think the interesting thing about Aitman, he really didn't line up in the slot. So in order for him to, have a substantial mark on the team this year or going forward, if he does make it past the cuts, he's going to have to learn that position, or he's going to have to go to the outside, which, like I said before, he reminds me of Gabe Davis. So does that open it up for, are we going to try to put him on the market? Are we going to, because this is his final year of his contract, are you going to try to re-sign him? They haven't done it yet. Yeah. We haven't heard any talks coming, so what are they going to do with him? If they think they can find him and Marcel Aitman or Justin Shorter, they may just do that.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. My theory on that, real quick, I don't think they see Davis as the future here. I think they like him, but I think, he was a much better fit in Daboll's offense than what he is now with Ken Dorsey. So
I agree.
But so what I also found is this offense, in terms of what we saw last year, has more of a Mike Shula influence than anything else.
More than people might know.
More than people would even think to know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really look at, what Mike Shula did as an offensive coordinator, you take it back to 2015 was his first year as an offensive coordinator. Before that, he was a quarterbacks coach in Carolina. 2015 is also the year that Cam Newton won the MVP. It's also the year they went to the Super Bowl. Okay, so he started his career off with a bang, but shortly after that, I think it was 2 years later, he ended up in New York with the Giants. I think he was kind of – it was weird. That was the Pat Shurmur / Mike Shula offense, right? And they were both kind of, I don't want to say co-coordinators, but they both had a major influence in that offense. Right?
You know what's funny about that, though? I just want to interject there.
Yep.
Mike Schuler's son, Kyle Schuler, is actually our offensive quality control coach.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so that's 6 degrees of separation for you. His son is actually with the Bills organization.
So this is where it gets ugly. And thank you for telling me that, because now it's about to get a lot uglier, right? So if we're talking about Mike Shula's influence, right? Chuck Burton interviewed Jordan Rodriguez, who covered the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer in 2015. And what Jordan said was, quote, "What stands out about Mike's time in Carolina was the inconsistency with which his offenses operated. At times, the Panthers looked unstoppable, and at other times, completely predictable and sluggish. It never felt like either end of the spectrum would last very long either." Right? Then he goes on to say later on, his opinion, he says, "My opinion has largely been that Shula is great with play design and concepts, but decision-making, rhythm, and timing were not his strengths." I see a trend starting here with what we've seen last year, because we started the year off hot and unstoppable, like nobody could handle us.
Yep.
And then somehow it all just fell to crap, right?
And so, I think the funny part about how we started off was we started off playing against a Super Bowl champion team that did nothing last year.
Exactly.
So, it's just like that year. I forget what year it was, but we played we had a streak where we played the Broncos. We played, I believe, who was it? It was the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Falcons, when they were all hot. It might have been the year after the Falcons lost the Super Bowl to New
Patriots,
England. Yeah. But I remember everybody thought these are games we're definitely losing. We're losing them because of who they are, their name-wise.
Right.
But they failed to realize that
was
every
this
year
Sean's
is
first? Was it Was it Sean's first year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think it was
so
his first
2017.
Year. Yep. I think it was his first year. And what people do is they look at the name, they look at the uniform, they look at the jersey, they say, "Oh man, we can't beat them. They're men just like us."
Right.
So, I mean, just going back into your point there, was last year's beginning, was that us, or was it the people we were playing against? Because you look at record-wise, they weren't as good as we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers were who they were at that point in time, and they weren't a great team. I really think I agree with you at that point. I think the teams that we played weren't the same teams that they were the year before. But that's not to discount the way that Josh Allen played in those games because his numbers were astronomical in the first 3 to 4 games.
Yep,
right?
And it was still Aaron Donald.
Right. And so, I don't want to take that away from him, but I have to say, compared to how those teams played the year before and what their reputations were and what ended up happening to the Bills later on in the year, I do think some degree of that, which maybe a quarter of the reason, why the Bills did as good as they did is that the other teams, weren't as good as they were the year before.
Right.
But real quick, I just want to get these next couple of quotes in, and then I'll make my point. But so this guy Jordan, who he covered the Panthers, he said Mike Shula gets creative with personnel groupings. And especially likes implementing multiple tight ends as blockers and pass catchers. What does that sound like? He and Panthers coach Ron Rivera echoed their emphasis on establishing a downhill run game before anything else from week to week. Then he goes on to say, and this is talking about Shula, he also favored long, clock-eating scoring drives, and an inability to actually score touchdowns on those drives hurt Carolina the last 2 years.
That sounds like the Miami game last year.
Exactly. And then it says his scripted drives were largely successful, which is typically the first 2 drives of a game.
Yeah, first 2 drives.
And then it says, but in-game adjustments constantly seem to happen a touch too late.
Yep, that sounds just a touch too familiar for me. Just a touch.
Right. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Mike Shula is the senior offensive assistant.
Right.
The senior offense. So what does that actually mean? That means that next to Dorsey, Shula is the next guy.
Yep.
So if I'm a head coach in Sean McDermott and I'm hiring a first-time offensive coordinator, I'm in a Super Bowl window, I'm saying to myself, Mike Shula got the Panthers to the Super Bowl when he was offensive coordinator there his first year.
Right.
I can sit him right next to your boy Dorsey, and they can scheme it up. They can do what they do, and they can make this thing run like it's never run before.
It might run like it never ran before with Dable too.
It's about to break down like it's never broke down.
Yeah, because Dable had it humming, but
right, exactly. But
and I think honestly, I think that to understand where you were with that thought you just had about hiring Dorsey to bringing in Shula, me, I had to go back and see who was available to be an offensive coordinator at the time.
Yeah, because people are going to say, well, who would you have got?
Yeah, who was there? I hate that. Who was there?
Doesn't matter. Anybody else.
It doesn't.
Anybody
what would you do?
Else.
It don't matter. I'm not the coach.
What were the Dolphins doing when they found Mike McDaniels? That guy was available.
Yeah.
That guy was available. You didn't get him.
Don't get me started on that. What? But Joe Brady, okay, we have Joe Brady. Joe Brady was available to be offensive coordinator. He ran out Eric Coryell. Eric Coryell is a vertical offense.
Yep.
We don't really have the pieces for Eric Coryell.
Nope.
So he's on the team. So how does the Eric Coryell work with Earnhardt Perkins? I don't really know. I don't see it because the Earnhardt Perkins is built on route combinations, and vertical offenses just run far. I need a strong arm quarterback, get down there. I have a couple underneaths, but for the most part, we're going to try to take some chunks.
But that's why I think they're going to run a pro style because it's zone run and power run in pro style, and the players that they have fit more of that pro style look better than And when I'm talking about, don't get me wrong, I'm talking about a pro style spread. Right. So you're talking about single back, 3 wide receiver formations. You're talking about shotgun having that H back kind of, right behind that right tackle. Those kind of looks, right? I think that fits better than anything else right now.
I mean, it's kind of the Earnhardt Perkins in the sense that Earnhardt is really just concept based. You can line up however you want.
Okay.
It's just all that is just a route combinations. Like you send it out with it, with a deep out or something like that.
So they're not trying to beat entire defenses. They're just picking players to go at, basically.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
I can line up in the same formation every time and run 6 different plays.
Right.
And the beauty of Earnhardt Perkins is the play calls are so much shorter. Whereas you might have one cadence, one huddle call, play call is going to be 9 to 10 different words.
Yeah.
Earnhardt Perkins 4 or 5, and that's it. But you had Joe Brady, who you could do an air choreo, which what they ran in Carolina with Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Ronald Curry was the Saints quarterback coach. He was he got Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, and Trevor Siemian to a 7-7 record. That's pretty good for those guys.
Yeah.
Josh Gaddis. Now, Gaddis, I didn't know about this guy, but man, he was University of Michigan's offensive coordinator, and he won. What did he win? He won an award for the top offensive coordinator in the nation.
Okay.
All right. The top assistant coach, in the nation. He ran a scheme that he liked to call, what do you call it? The speed and space. Now, sit back and picture this, okay? Picture our offense with Isaiah McKenzie. Picture our offense with Cole Beasley, with everybody we had. Mm-hmm. And Gaddis' offense was predicated around jet sweeps, outside runs, counter runs, and pulling guards with pre-snap motions. What did we want to do last year? This is pretty much the stuff that they were talking about trying to do. When they re-signed Isaiah McKenzie, what did they say? We're going to see jet sweeps. When we got Nyheim Hines, what we're supposed to do? Jet sweeps.
Yep.
We saw none of it.
So why? Like why?
I have no idea. Honestly, I don't know. But I think that goes into what you were talking about when you're talking about Dorsey and the Shula influence.
Yeah.
The same reason your question, why would you come off a hot season with Gabe Davis and throw the ball only to Steph Diggs? Where was Dawson Knox the year after you signed him to a $14 million contract?
The year after he had 9 touchdowns.
9 touchdowns. The year after he really didn't have any drops.
Right.
Was it their fault that they didn't get the ball last year? Were they not open? I highly doubt it.
Yeah, right.
So when you look at a Dorsey or you look at a Shula, I'm inclined to think that they just got shell shocked. When you play Madden and you're trained to just look at the left side, so you just keep spamming that square. All you do is square. It doesn't matter. That's what they were doing. Because Steph Diggs is out there somewhere. Throw the ball.
Right.
But on top of that, is everything on Dorsey in terms of the decision making on the field? What was Josh actually doing? Where was the disconnect? I don't want to sit here and tell you that it was just Dorsey. I don't want to sit here and say that Josh Allen was a superstar. I want to say what we saw last year was a microcosm of both of their actions. I see the skepticism in your face.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, bro. I think the play calls were very aggressive, and I think they had to be because they just didn't trust calling, a 16, 17 play drive. I don't think they trusted that. I think a lot of the play calls were, we need to score in 3 and 4 plays because we just aren't confident that the offense can execute that many plays, or maybe it was injuries that caused that, or maybe it was confidence in the play calling itself that maybe Sean went to the guy and said, look, we just got to score as fast as we can, and I can't say that for sure. I would have to go and research that whole entire theory, but my point is I don't think that Josh had much of an effect on how poorly the offense performed, specifically when I look at receivers being in the same area, when I look at the offensive scheme never seeming to make strong in-game adjustments. I mean, a player is a player. Now, Do I want a player that I employ on my team to be able to do what Travis Kelce did in the divisional game against us when he looked at Mahomes and he said, "I'm going this way. Find me at this spot," or how, like whatever he said exactly. But he changed his role in that play on
he did what he
that
wanted.
last touchdown.
It wasn't even a play. He just said, "I'm going to do something and throw me the ball."
I'm gonna go to the corner and throw it.
Just
to
throw me the ball.
Right, and that was his call. Do I want a player to be able to do that? Yes. Is that what the Bills are putting on the field? No.
But see, okay, that's where I'm kind of going to push back on it. We do have that player. He wears number 14. Number 14 will do that. But my point is, in my argument, what I was stating is. Are we saying Josh made all the right reads? Are we saying that he hit the right spots every time? Because if the answer is no, then you can't put all the onus on Dorsey.
Listen, I'm not a Josh Allen, where I don't have Josh Allen underwear.
I still don't.
Okay, okay, but and yes, I'll give you that. I have seen some times where he missed reads. I think every quarterback misses reads when they got an offensive line that's as bad as what he has in front of him. He has not had an offensive line since the day he stepped into this building.
Yeah.
There is nothing about this offensive line that I would have kept. I was happy when we got Mitch Morse because I was kind of, I was unsure about the loss of Eric Wood at the time. And at that time, I really wanted a guy who had experience that could stabilize that position, and then you build around that guy. I was fine with bringing him here if you were going to build a strong, power run style offense around him because of the fact that he was more of a power style run blocker as far as his ability to pull and stuff like that. But I can't look at the way that the coaches have chosen the players, the way that the coaches coach the players. It's almost as if the players are going onto the field having an understanding that I execute exactly what the coaches tell me to do and nothing more.
Okay.
As long as I do that, we'll win.
All right. So let me ask you this then. And I don't believe I'm being this much of a Dorsey apologist or a Dorsey defender right now, but Dorsey, when he stepped in the room, he had Brian Daboll's offensive line. And what did they do? They brought in Tommy Doyle. They brought in Spencer Brown, who Tommy Doyle is like a Swiss Army knife. He can play at pretty much any position on the offensive line. Spencer Brown, who right now can't stay healthy in the offseason to get the work in, to get up to the curve. So the Mitch Morse signing, I hate it. I hated the Mitch Morse signing. It was him or Matt Paredes at the time. And I thought Mitch Morse was small. I never saw strength in him. I saw speed, but I didn't see the strength. And when I was looking at the line we had at the time, was it Feliciano? We had Deion Dawkins and whoever else was there. I thought they were building a power offensive line. And when I saw Mitch Morse, I saw more of a finesse offensive line, a zone run scheme offensive line. So I was unsure, and I think we talked about it a million times. I said, what is our line going to be? I said, is our line going to be halfway? Are we going to be a hybrid? Because you can't have one side of the line as power and one side of the line as undersized, which is what they were running at the time.
And that's exactly what they had.
So in my thinking at the time was, we have to build an identity, and I'm going to keep saying that. What's our identity? Our identity at line, our identity at wide receiver, our identity in the backfield. Mm-hmm. The only one we have somewhat is at quarterback, which we really don't have there either. Right. And I'll go with me on that. I'll get into that in just a moment. But in building the line, in building this team around what Dorsey wants, Dorsey has to get his players. And they just didn't do it. I don't know. I mean, until just now, they did not do what we thought they would do in terms of getting the new guy his tools. That's like saying, hey, you're an F1 driver, go drive this big rig over here.
Right.
So, and I'm trying to be fair to Daboll. I keep saying Dorsey, but when you look at Josh Allen, he's only known Daboll. Daboll was known to be a no-nonsense guy. Daboll was known to be a guy that will get in your face and tell you when you screwed up.
Right.
Is Dorsey? Because Josh Allen just got $258 million. He's an unsung quarterback. This is his team. Who's going to tell him it's not? And your first year offensive coordinator, I don't care what he did in that booth when he lost that game. I don't care what he threw.
I actually liked it.
Oh, it was funny.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, paper clips don't hit back. Paper clips don't hit back, man. So it's like, all right, you having a tantrum, your guy covers up the camera, and then you go home to your wife, you kiss her, lay down, probably in a dark room, and that was it. Dorsey, if I'm wrong, you can call me and tell me.
I'm proud that you beat the paper clips up, boy. I tore the paper clips down, boy.
Man, you can get in your eye and mess you up. But no, I just think when I'm looking at what we saw last year and my research and what we talked about, I'm lending it to kind of saying, can we really say that Dorsey can control Josh Allen? Can we really say that Dorsey? I mean, and the answer might be yes, but I can't say that right now because I don't know what the play calls were on a day. I don't know what the reads were. I don't know what they were supposed to, what his progression was. Why was he throwing? Like I said, I guarantee you Stephon Diggs was not the number one read on every play.
No, probably not. Probably not. I think so much of what ailed Allen last year was in front of him, the five guys in front of him. When you don't trust those guys, it looks like it looked last year. And every single defense that we played against seemed to know that our tackles were turnstiles. And it played out. The game played out that way. I mean, to the degree where our quarterback got hurt because of it. So if I'm dealing with that injury, and I know it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks for me to be fully recovered from that thing, guess what? I'm getting that ball out to whoever I feel comfortable getting the ball out to, but I'm not holding on to that thing trying to follow your play call. I'm going to do what I got to do because I'm the best shot we got to win this game, and I'm going to get the ball where I feel I can get the ball the best.
What if I told you Josh Allen held the ball top 5 longest before he threw the ball? What if I told you that? He held the ball almost 3 seconds before throwing the ball on any given play.
I would say a lot of that had to do with him scrambling. I would say a lot of that had to do with teams not being able to keep him in the pocket the way they like to so that they can sack him behind that poor offensive line. I think his ability to break out and kind of scramble left or scramble right and wait for that guy to come open and try to hit that miracle throw over the middle against the grain or in the opposite direction that he's running in is what is largely the contribution to what you're saying.
You got the number 2 worst offensive line. You know who it was?
Who?
Cincinnati. Cincinnati was number 2 graded by Pro Football Focus, one of the the second worst, only behind Tennessee and right in front of the Jets. Jets, Dolphins, Texans, Saints, Commanders, Giants, Rams, Colts, Lions, then us in pass blocking. And I can also tell you that the Bills' offensive line was number 5 worst in run blocking. So you're right, the line was abysmal, but what is the one thing that will mitigate a terrible pass blocking offensive line? It's going to be a team that throws the ball fast.
Right.
So when we had Fitzpatrick, we had a terrible offensive line. We had terrible receivers. We had everything was terrible. Even Fitz was not that great, but he made it work. So I think when you look at Josh Allen, and I mentioned that 2.9 second release time, because if you look at his college career, he was always one of the late throwers because his arm is too strong. He had to give guys the time to get downfield. And he didn't know how to take anything off his passes. Also, you look at the combine when there was nobody rushing them. When they were running deep outs, when they were running 9 routes, he would hold the ball longer than anybody because he threw it farther than everybody. He had to give him a chance to get down there. So, but
are you saying that's his fault or?
This is who he is. That's like when I played basketball, all I did was fade away. So, and the reason why I faded away is because my knee was bad, so I couldn't,
you just got to compensate.
I had to compensate.
Sorry.
Right. And the thing about the beauty, I'm glad you said that because when my coach used to get on my butt about going straight up and coming down straight, my field goal percentage went down. So you can't unteach something that somebody, you can find some little thing, but you got to know what you can leave.
Right. You can't make them think too much.
Right. And the onus is on the offensive coordinator in order to say, okay, this is what he does and this is who he is. Let me work around him because he's my star. Everything around Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs needs to be around Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. If you can't work with them, you're gone.
Right. I get that. I don't know. As we've kind of fleshed this thing out, and we've looked at Mike Shula's influence, we've looked at how aggressive Dorsey is. I think all this really brings me to my conclusion is I don't understand the decision to do it this way.
Neither.
I think you purposely, and when I say purposely, I don't mean purposely with the intent to reach the specific the conclusion I'm going to get to, but I just mean with purpose. You wanted to bring in guys that you were familiar with, guys that you had reached the Super Bowl with, and that was probably the best year of McDermott's life.
That
and
was your apex. That was it.
Right. He wants to take that and recreate it here. And I mean, maybe that might have been the bag of goods that he sold to Pegula.
Right.
But I don't understand how you have Rick Dennison come in here your first year. He has a similar style of offense that it looks like you're trying to get back to now with the zone run and the single back formations and the two tight ends and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty close to what we saw here the first year. And that guy was gone after year one.
After a year, yeah.
Right? So now we go to we go to year one of Dorsey. Now here's the other thing too. Rick Dennison didn't have a Josh Allen.
No.
And he sure as hell didn't have a Josh Allen after he had some time with Daboll and had a chance to really blow up and become Josh freaking Allen, right?
Right.
So you give Dorsey Josh freaking Allen in his first year, and the stats don't decline too much from Daboll's last year here, but they are slightly worse, right? And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying, well, the only difference right now between Dorsey and Dennison is Josh Allen. If you take Josh Allen off this team and you put Tyrod Taylor back in that on the team last year, do you think that we did as well as we do you think we do as well as we did?
No.
So if I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, why does Dorsey get a second shot? He gets a second shot because Josh Allen is still here, and Josh Allen is the endorsement for him.
Yeah,
Josh Allen was the endorsement for him getting the job in the first place. And I think the fix for that was, okay, you want Dorsey? Well, we have Shula here. Those guys have worked together before. We can put them in a room, and maybe that'll work.
And this is the quote I found. This is the only quote I think I'm going to give you by Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo. She said, breaking your own mold can only make you stronger and more confident to reach higher levels in your professional and personal life. Breaking your own molds, not being comfortable. What that's saying is you can't be successful being comfortable. Successful was bred in discomfort. So for Josh Allen, for Sean McDermott, for guys to say, oh, we're familiar, you don't want to be better. You want to be just what you were and hope that it works this time.
Yep.
So like you said, when you're talking about Josh Allen, who developed Josh Allen? Who was his quarterback coach? Was it Dorsey? No. Right. People don't realize that. Let me tell you this. When Dorsey was in Carolina, he was a quarterback's coach, right? Mm-hmm. But who was the offensive coordinator?
Mike Shula.
Who was their quarterback? Cam Newton.
Right.
Cam Newton was what he was in college when he went to Carolina. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton, did he ever progress? No. He just had an offense that hummed one year when he became MVP. Cam Newton went from the time he stepped in the league was the same Cam Newton he was until he got too old to run around and he got hit too many times. He was always getting hit.
2015 was Cam's second year? Or was it his third year?
Third year, I believe.
Okay. So that would have been...
Yeah, that was the year they went, 15-1, and they were first in the league in scoring.
And that was 2015.
Yeah. So you got to think about it like this. Mike Shula had his hands on Cam Newton. Mm-hmm. And we saw no progression. Cam Newton didn't come into the league as a raw ball of clay. He came into the league as the number one overall draft pick who did exactly what he did in college in the pros. So,
but that was still 2 years removed. So 2015, if we're right, and that was Cam Newton's third year, mm-hmm. we're still 2 years removed from the best rookie season a quarterback has ever had.
Right.
And the following year in which teams had tape on him, so it's understandable your quarterback takes a little bit of a dip.
Right.
Then he goes into year 3. That's typically the year that quarterbacks are supposed to have it figured out. And he did.
Yep.
And it got him to the Super Bowl that year.
Yep.
So I don't want it to get confused as, Mike Shula was this great offensive mind. Like, he's a scheme guy. He's not a play caller.
Right.
I think we've kind of revealed that now with everything that we've brought up is that he's a scheme guy. He's not a play caller.
And like I said, he didn't develop him.
Right.
He just took what he had and made it work. And in the Super Bowl, he got lambasted.
Yeah.
They killed him in that game.
Oh, yeah.
He was horrible. Yeah. They had nothing for anything. They had no way of coaching this guy to adjust.
That was Wade Phillips that was the defensive coordinator for them. Yeah.
Yes. So, in contrast, who was Josh Allen's quarterback coach? Josh Allen's he went to quarterback camp with Jordan Palmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
A former NFL quarterback, even though he really didn't do much. He has a brother. He has a good bloodline.
That's right.
But who else was coached up by Jordan Palmer? You're looking at, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Jordan Palmer went to a school who brought out the best in guys. You know, Joe Burrow.
I don't know. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Sam Darnold went to the same school.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, Sam Darnold as well. But Sam Darnold, he went to the Jets.
Yeah.
Adam Gase.
Yeah.
He got murdered, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, was he I wasn't a big Sam Darnold fan.
Yeah.
But this is also, I want to land here, Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen also went to the same school, Josh Allen's backup.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get to that thought in just a moment because I have a thought on that as well. But Deshaun Watson went to the Jordan Palmer school. So would you rather have Jordan Palmer school or whoever Dorsey sat next to and said, no, Cam Newton wasn't listening to him? The same way Josh Allen's not listening to him now. So, that's kind of where I'm getting at. If you're an offensive coordinator, somebody got to listen to you, right? You got this guy up in the booth. He's throwing stuff. You got Diggs over here doing this. You got Josh Allen throwing the ball downfield more than he's done in his career.
Yeah.
He's losing his ship. He's losing it. He's losing the locker room. And it's not even anything he did, but it's just like when that substitute teacher comes into play. On a Friday, you're a fifth grader, you got to teach what you going to do? You're not learning nothing.
Right.
Because you're doing whatever you want, right?
I'm skipping that class.
Exactly. I'm going to sit by my locker and say, I don't belong here.
Yep.
I'm lost, sir. Please help me. But the thing is, when you look at our offense, who's in charge of everything that we got going on? And that's why when we talked, when they first hired you taught me and okay, give him a shot. But my concern was you're familiar, but we didn't win the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
Had Dable got us to the Super Bowl and won it and then got a head coaching job, I want to be familiar. I want that same system. But we didn't. So that goes back to what Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo said again. You cannot grow in comfort.
If you listen to, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, if you listen to a lot of the most prominent people that teach about wealth, real estate guys, I mean, everybody who's got money will tell you growth is in discomfort. Mm-hmm. That's where you learn. That's where you stretch your mind. It's where you become what you need to become in order to survive and to thrive. So I sadly, I don't think this year is going to be I don't think it's going to be a major improvement from last year. If I had to, give my projections, I would say you're probably looking at maybe 500 yards or less decrease.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 500 yards or more decrease from yardage production last year. I think the run game is going to play a bigger role. And in the offenses that we talked about today, play action plays a pretty big part in that. So, maybe that becomes a bigger part. But ultimately, all this is to say, I don't think Dorsey's the guy. I know that I kind of convinced you to give him a chance, but really that was just on the strength of, his connection with Josh Allen. And maybe, there are some things that Ken Dorsey knew how to get out of Josh Allen that made Josh believe that Dorsey could be the guy to really blow this thing open and make this offense dominant. But from what we've seen, that's not the case. It's just not the case.
Let's be real. I do go off the handle a little bit. I do.
A little bit?
I go off the handle just a little bit. So, sometimes you got to have that comment first, bring you back to earth. So you did that. But going with Dorsey and the thought we just had with the quarterback school, don't you find it odd we have not drafted a quarterback? We got Josh Allen. And who else have we drafted since Josh Allen?
Before Josh
No,
or
after.
since? What's his face? Jake Fromm.
Okay, so we drafted Jake Fromm. What about the other years? We have that's it. And Jake Fromm didn't make it past it. Did he make it out of the first year?
Yeah, well, he got stolen off of our practice squad.
That's my point. See, if you have a
that means he's desirable. What do you mean?
If you have a quarterback, coach as your offensive coordinator, what is the most valuable position in football? The most desired position in football is quarterback.
Correct.
You're a quarterback coach. Why are you not drafting quarterbacks? Coach them up and sell them off if you don't need them for draft picks.
Because it's not a great investment of time.
Why not? If he's good, then he's your backup. So you're not signing Mitch Trubisky. You're not signing Kyle Allen. You're signing cheap labor. You get a 6th or 7th round draft pick as your backup. If Josh Allen's your number one guy, bring somebody aboard. Worst case scenario, he's your number 2.
We'd have to go back and look at this, but I think my argument to that is the only quarterback, and we'll see this year too with Jordan Love, but the only quarterback to have sat for any extensive period of time and come in and to be a great quarterback is Aaron Rodgers in the last 15 years.
Ain't got to be great. That's not my point. My point is quarterbacks get hurt all the time. Okay, you can get you a 6th round draft pick maybe, and I'm not going to say a team because I don't want to jinx anybody, even though I should. Who was it? Was it who lost who? The Jets. The Jets lost everybody.
Okay.
You mean to tell me if you're not developing guys, if you're not known for a pipeline of quarterbacks, they're not going to throw you a 4th or 5th rounder for that guy?
Who does that? Like, who is doing that right now? Nobody's a pipeline of quarterbacks. Nobody.
But who has a quarterback coach on their pipeline in their quarterback room that is known to work with anybody?
Well, again, nobody, because everybody takes
we do supposedly.
Okay, I get that, but all of the quarterbacks coach or the offensive guys become head coaches.
Right.
I could see if I was a head coach and I was a good enough coordinator. Like, I'll put it this way. I could see Kyle Shanahan doing something like that because damn near every quarterback that's come into his system has been able to execute, and it's looked good, right? Now, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, heck yeah, I'm taking 5th, 6th, 7th round quarterbacks, come in here and play, because Brock Purdy's going to get paid, baby. Somebody out there is going to hire one of Kyle Shanahan's assistants or is going to already have one that can implement a similar system to what Shanahan runs. And come on, Brock Purdy, we'll pay you 50, 60, 70 million dollars because we know you can execute in this offense. But again, I don't think a quarterback's coach turned offensive coordinator is going to be able to do something like that because the workload on him is too much. Whereas if you're a head coach and the offense is yours and you're a strong enough offensive coordinator and you have a strong enough offensive scheme that can produce that kind of quarterback or produce that level of play from a quarterback, then you could do that. But I don't see that happening with an offensive coordinator.
Thank you. That's my point. Dorsey, what does he do? Nothing. He does nothing.
What? Listen,
he does nothing.
You and I can't fire the guy right now.
I'm not going to, but my point is you have your franchise quarterback. Are you going to keep bringing in $10 million quarterbacks to back him up? Are you going to keep bringing in these guys to back him up? No, you should at some point have somebody, if your guy gets poached off the practice squad, get somebody else.
But what are you saying that the pipeline is more important than having a guy that can step in and win right now?
No, because you can't afford to do both. If you have your Trubisky,
okay,
and once you get your Trubisky, you have a practice squad quarterback, right? Who was our practice squad quarterback? Who do we have after Trubisky? It was Matt Barkley. So we had Josh Allen, Matt Trubisky.
Who's our backup this year?
Kyle Allen.
Okay.
So
and then we have, I think they got another one.
Matt Barkley.
Right.
So my point is, are you going to keep paying money for these backup quarterbacks when you could try? If they get poached, they get poached. At some point, you got to start something. We don't have money to be throwing at these backup quarterbacks that are not going to see the field or aren't even that good. I mean, you got familiarity's sake, fine, whatever.
Well, so by that logic, I should just draft my backups. I shouldn't even bother paying for a guy who can come in and.
You should try. If you can't get beat up by Kyle Allen, fine. If you can't get beat up by Trubisky, fine. But the point is,
but
you should try.
I get try, but it essentially you're wasting an asset on potential when there's guys out there that can for sure and have proven that they can come in and win you 1 to 2 games. Like the idea of what do you mean? Kyle Allen is a guy that can come in and win you 1 game. You need 1 game. Kyle Allen can come and win you 1 game.
You can't draft a quarterback that can come in and win 1 game if he has to.
That you think there is a quarterback in this past year's draft in the later rounds that can come in and beat Kyle Allen?
Might.
Might be. I'm not spending an asset on might.
I'm not spending an asset. I'm not spending money we don't have on a quarterback that we could.
Well, you're saying it's money we don't have, but they paid him.
I know.
Well, they had the money then.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Huh?
Now we can't get DeAndre Hopkins. Now we can't get these because this is what they do.
You're saying you wouldn't even sign Hopkins if we had the money.
Why did I say though?
But you said even if we had the money, you wouldn't sign him.
No, I didn't. I said if he would take 15, if he would take the OBJ contract and we had money.
Okay.
I said absolutely I would. I said it. It's on record. I said that.
So I listened back to last week and you said something and we got like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But you said something. You said you were more focused on undoing what was already done.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. If we had the money, which is Von Miller, which is what we already did, right?
Right.
Then I would be fine with Hopkins, what I said. But we can't undo it. So we don't have the assets to get to Hopkins because we did something in the past that we can't undo. So in order to get him, I have to undo the past is what I was saying.
Okay.
That's where I was going at.
But my point in bringing that up is it seems like in order to satisfy your theory, you have to undo the Kyle Allen situation.
Not really, because Kyle Allen came after the draft, didn't he?
I think he was before the draft. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was before the draft.
Well, either way, with Kyle Allen, who else was there besides Josh? It was
Barkley.
Josh and Kyle. So you got to have 2.
You had Barkley the whole time.
You got to have 2. You got to have Kyle. Matt Barkley's in his 6th, 7th
Give the
year.
man some respect. He's been in the league long enough.
He's been in the league, but he's been on the practice squad. So he keeps coming back to the practice squad.
Okay.
He signed with us to be on the practice squad. What veteran signs with you after being in the league to be on your practice squad after he's already been on your active roster? Yes, it happens. I know. It happens.
Okay.
But my point, I get. I know we don't have much time, but my point is, if you are this quarterback coach, if you have all these quarterback coaches, you have all these guys with their hands in the pot to develop somebody, get somebody to develop them. Try it.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they got to start for us ever. But when you're pissing away all these draft picks, you're trading away, you're doing this, you're doing that. Let's try it. What is the harm in this?
So you don't have a problem with the 5th, 6th, 7th round quarterback coming in and losing you that critical game that you need because your starting quarterback got hurt?
If you got Kyle Allen already.
No. Well, you didn't say that. You said get rid of Kyle Allen.
No, I did. Just now. I admitted it just now because you said. Okay. When you said we had him before the draft, I said okay, but you still get. Because remember we were talking about we have 2.
But I'm trying to get a feel for your overall theory. So are you saying that ideally in a perfect world, you wouldn't spend money on a quote backup quarterback? You would just draft a guy and see if he works.
No,
out.
I would have tried to start a pipeline. That's all I'm saying. I would have tried.
Well,
if I don't have if in 2021 if that draft and I drafted a quarterback and he stunk. Okay. Yes, I got to go get a Trubisky. I got to go get a Kyle Allen. But my hope is either I got a draft pick because somebody wanted him, or I have somebody I can put in to win that 1 or 2 games for a down Josh Allen.
So either a Kyle Allen or a draft pick,
right?
But not both.
Not necessarily. No, not at this point. No,
and definitely not just a backup.
Right. No. But see, I'm of the thought of quarterbacks are like gold right now. Okay. It's like a stock. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna invest in a 5th. What are we getting? Last year we got Luke Tenuta in the 6th round. Where is he now? We got Jack Anderson in the 6th round. Where is he now? They're gone.
What you're saying is you have to live off of your stock portfolio at that point.
Well, you're living off Josh, but you're hoping that your stock hits.
But again, if my entire life depends on the stock market, And that's essentially what we're saying, because it is. The NFL is a stock market. You have players who have their potential, and if they meet their potential or they boom, that's a huge win, right? You're living good. But if my livelihood is dependent upon this stock market, I'm going to go for some more certainties, and I'm going to try to, maybe take some chances in smaller areas. And if those boom, then cool. But I'm not going to take the majority of my resources and pour that into one pool and hope that gives me the ability to then trade later on.
Okay, so that inherently would be very risky. But what you got to understand is, in my portfolio, every check I get, I allocate this percentage to my savings account, which is Josh Allen.
Okay.
And I allocate this amount that I can lose, and I'm fine with losing, to my stock portfolio. So if I lose all my stocks, I still have my savings. See, that's how I live.
I'm just not okay losing.
You're not okay losing, but I'm going to win because I still got my savings.
Yeah, but so are you saying your savings is the ability to trade these quarterbacks, or what are you saying your savings
My
is?
savings is the ability to not cripple my livelihood because I put everything in my stocks, is what I'm saying. So like you said, I'm living on my stocks.
Right.
I'm not. I refuse to live on my stocks. That living on my stocks would be getting rid of Josh Allen is a massive contract.
No.
To me, that's what it means to me.
Literally, in a literal sense, the entire team is your stock market. And the livelihood of you depends on the entirety of the team. Every player that's on the team is the stock market.
See, so I'm not looking at the entire team. I'm looking at just the quarterback room.
Well, you can't.
Why not?
Because the whole team is involved in the cap.
I get that, but my point is we're looking at how they handle one room. I'm not looking at the cap right now. I'm looking at.
Well, you're saying develop a pipeline for the ability to trade these players off at some point,
if need be, or they're your backup. They could be a Frank Reich. I don't know.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand is how does that increase my potential for winning, or how does that positively affect my team in 1 year?
Okay,
in one specific year.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I know we're over the time, but I think I know okay. So in your thought process, the whole team is a stock market in the sense that if you don't allocate the money somewhere, you can allocate it somewhere else, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. In that assumption, you're right. You're right in that. So I'll acquiesce. because I did make that statement. If you didn't have a Kyle Allen, or you didn't do a Trubisky, you didn't do a $10 million backup quarterback,
right?
You could put it somewhere else.
Right.
But why couldn't we have that if we had a Dable who molded a Josh Allen? I'm not saying I want a Josh Allen. I'm saying just give me a shot.
Yeah.
Just give me a shot, because if you have to, the Jets were better with Flacco than they were, and Flacco was a flame out.
Yeah.
No, it's not foolproof. But my point is, if you got a Dorsey who's worked with quarterbacks, if you got this, you have when Dable was here, especially when Dable was here, Dorsey was a quarterback's coach. We say he's worked with guys. He's made them better, I guess. Right. Let's do what we do here, but let's see if we can mitigate some of this money here, because we got our starter. Let's see if we can get our guy a backup. Just get us a backup. Maybe let's try it.
Yeah.
Because some of the inverses have not worked out so well.
No, I agree with you there, 100%. I think I'm with you too in terms of the ability to develop pipelines, whether it be with, quarterbacks or wide receivers or with any specific position. If I have a guy who has a scheme that is very good at kind of propping up a certain position, then I want to make sure that I'm investing heavily in that position, because the more of that I have, the more ability I have to add value in other areas via trade, or to maybe not have to pay bigger contracts to guys at the top of my depth chart. I can let those guys go because I know that my system is going to have that next guy up and ready to play.
Yeah. And that's kind of what Belichick lived on forever when he was good.
Oh yeah.
But we got our Tom Brady and Josh Allen. So in my mind, I'm kind of minded to kind of go over to that way now, where we have our guy here, and now let's develop. Yeah. Let's get our guys in, and once we can't afford them, we'll replace you, get somebody else.
Right. Right. I just really wish that pipeline was the offensive line. I mean, that to me that just makes the most sense.
It does. It does because you can, like you said, if you have an offensive line that actually can play, you don't have to worry about. I mean, obviously our guy is Josh Allen, but you don't have to worry about what happens if he goes down because your offensive line should mitigate some of that. You might not win by 30, but you should be able to win by 3. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's the end of the show there. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. If you like what you heard, please, just give us a comment. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more of, and all things, related to your preferences. We want to make sure we're giving you the best product possible and giving you something that you're excited to tell your friends about and to listen to, every time we put something out. So, talk to us, give us something, and we'll be looking for it for sure. But once again, this is All Truth here, no sodium at the Post Podium Podcast. It's been a great time spending this hour with you guys. Have a great rest of your day.